Emperors and fishmongers, the opposite ends of the social spectrum. But in Japan, I discovered the levels of formality in meetings was unnervingly similar. Find out more in this week's show. Welcome back to year 4 of the Cutting Edge Japan Business Show, which we release every Monday. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, your corporate coaching and training guide, master trainer, president of Dale Carnegie Training, Tokyo, Japan, and best-selling author, Japan Sales Mastery, Japan Business Mastery, and my new book, Japan Presentations Mastery, will be released shortly. We're bringing the show to you from our High Performance Center in Akasaka, in Minato-ku, the business center of Tokyo. Why the cutting edge? We are looking at giving you a big edge in business in Japan. Let's all be at the forefront, at the cutting edge of how to flourish here in this market. This is episode number 203. Japan is very formal in business. So let's get going. Formality in Japan is linked very closely to what is perceived as being polite. European countries may feel more familiar with Japanese-style formality, but for countries like the US, Australia, Canada, etc., this level of formality is not the usual. There is a sense of formality here in Japan that is unexpected and sometimes hard to fathom for most foreigners. The most formal meeting I've ever attended in Japan was when I met the previous emperor in his palace. When every new ambassador comes into Japan, arrives in Japan, they go to the palace to present their credentials. This was the case with Australian Ambassador John McCarthy, while I was country head for Austrade at the embassy. The ambassadors don't go to see the emperor on their own in the palace. They have their entourage of senior officials from the embassy with them. And I was in that group. There is a special waiting room for you at the Tokyo station, and then you're taken by horse-drawn carriage with a mounted escort to the palace. A senior Japanese cabinet member attends you. In our case, the Minister of State for Financial Services was Heizo Takenaka. There are numerous points of protocol when greeting the emperor: how you walk, stand, move, speak, sit, etc. Formal beyond words is how I would describe the atmosphere. The second most formal meeting I've been to in Japan was with some fishmongers in Osaka. I was introducing Australian Ambassador Dr. Ashton Calvert to various importers dealing with Australia. This seafood business was a large one and a big customer of Australian produce. They had the entire echelon of senior management turn out for the meeting with the ambassador. It was a very stiff affair, a complete ceremony in itself. The formality was quite breathtaking. I never expected that fishmongers could be that formal, but it was a very serious affair because of the above God status of the visiting ambassador. There are levels of politeness here with the accompanying formality. Even simple things like how you sit. I had an embarrassing experience when I was attending a senior Australian government official making the rounds of calls in Osaka. The governor of Osaka was unavailable that day for the meeting, so we met with the vice governor. Picture this scene. The vice governor is sitting there ramrod straight in his chair with a 10-centimetre gap between his spine and the back of the chair. Roman patrician style, very formal and upright. My Aussie VIP, visitor by contrast, was sitting there with his legs kicked out in front of him, lounging back in his chair like he was on his couch at home watching the footy. The contrast in informality and formality was stunning. The formality, politeness construct comes straight into play here. Is lounging around in a formal meeting polite in a Japanese context? Was my VIP showing any respect for the vice governor? I don't think so. After the meeting, I tried to breach the subject of required formality in Japan with my visitor in a subtle way, but I failed. The cognition gap was too big to straddle. When we're in business, always think that Japan is more formal. When you go into the meeting room, there are these massive big chairs with solid wooden armrests. These are big units and must weigh about 50 kilos. They are also set at quite long distances across the room, so you are quite separated from the other side. It is very, very hard to build any rapport when you are sitting that far apart in such a formal atmosphere. If you are a training business like us, well, you need to show, and you want to show things to the buyer. Well, you just can't do it at that distance. So you have to get up and go and sit closer. Of course, you have to apologize for breaking protocol to do that, but otherwise you have no chance of introducing your solution with any impact. Now, a Japanese visitor is unlikely to ever attempt to alter the seating arrangement, which is why being a foreigner is an advantage sometimes in business in Japan. We can break through the formality, but you have to know when it is appropriate and when it is not. We are dealing with presidents of companies or very senior people, and it's a great chance to go straight to the top and get them interested in what we can do for them. In the typical Japanese seating amongst Japanese, they are going to find that hard to do because of all the formality attached to the meeting. Find out more when we come back from the break. If you want to become skilled at dealing with people, then sign up for the Dale Carnegie course. Fully road tested for the last 100 years. This course is super popular globally and in Japan too. We've been teaching this for over 50 years here. Improve your ability with people, really ramp up your communication and leadership skills, grow your confidence and end your stress. Contact us to do the Dale Carnegie course now in either Japanese or English. Are you doing business with Japan? Do you really know how things work? Japan Business Mastery provides the answers. Do you have the right networks and know how to create them? Do you know how to get on the same wavelength with Japanese buyers? Do you know what being trustworthy looks like from the Japanese perspective? Japan Business Mastery is based on more than 30 years' experience in Japan and will become your go-to guide. Want to succeed in Japan? Buy Japan Business Mastery now. Welcome back. We're in this big room as a sign of respect. They have lots of other meeting rooms which are a lot less formal and where you can do business across a table more easily. The formality of the meeting room reflects the degree of politeness being shown to the visitor. Because of your rank, you go into the big, formal, impersonal, almost impossible to do any business meeting room. But it is a strong sign of polite respect, and we should be extremely appreciative of that indicator. So, what happens when we flip it around and you are receiving visitors? What degree of respect are you showing them? Do you walk them out to the elevators? In Japan, that is part of being polite, showing respect. Now, in some cases, you may not rank that degree of respect, so it is sayonara at the door. Japan's politeness is linked to formality and thoughtfulness. Japanese are very, very thoughtful. Australia, where I grew up, is so much more easygoing, informal and casual. So sometimes it is hard to get your head around Japanese formality. The thoughtfulness thing is also surprising too. As an example, my wife's friend invited us to the wedding of her daughter. The family is super wealthy, and they could have had an extravaganza of a wedding, inviting all the heavy hitter business contacts as well, and making it a big affair. Instead, it was about 100 people, and they were all close friends and relatives. My wife, who's Japanese, surmised that the reason we were invited was because her friend wanted to introduce us to our own neighbour. Our neighbour, like my wife's friend, was in the Takarazuka troupe, which is super famous here in Japan, and they are all female entertainers, acting, singing, dancing. Our neighbour has gone on to become a major Japanese actress, very famous and a big, big celebrity. Her house is a huge fortress, and we've never even laid eyes on her. When you do the call to introduce yourself to your neighbours, in her case you get the maid, and that is it. So finally, we had a chance to meet her, and that was through the thoughtfulness of my wife's friend to do that. What are you doing to be thoughtful in business with your clients? What can you do for them? When you go into the meetings, be more formal than normal. It will be seen as polite. Australia is probably the casual capital of the universe. That is fine in Australia, but Japan is different. How you sit, stand, walk, move, speak, were all determined very rigorously in samurai days, and many of those attributes have trickled down to today as acceptable, polite behaviour. All of this flies out the window, however, when you go out drinking together. It's extremely informal, but that is the correct environment for that activity, and Japan doesn't mix it together. The problem with a lot of informal countries like my own is we tend to want to mix them together, to be informal when we should be trying to be formal. Don't mix them up in Japan. If you say, no, I want to do it my way, this is how I do it in my country, and I'm not going to be Japanese about this, hey, good luck with that. Let me know how that works out for you. I wouldn't recommend that. I suggest you try to be seen as polite in a Japanese context, and that means being a lot more formal than normally would be the case in a business setting in your own country. By the way, you will never be Japanese. Trust me, you will never be considered Japanese. But you will be considered polite from their point of view, their reference point, their cultural context. We have to be conscious of that and maybe up the formality levels a bit to fit in, at least during working hours. After work, we're all champions of informality, so we have that part down already. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and so please subscribe on YouTube. Share it with your family, friends, and colleagues. Become a regular. Hit the little bell icon to receive update notifications. Our website details are on screen now, www.dale-carnegie.cojp. It's packed with value, so certainly check it out. We try to offer as much value as possible, so you might also enjoy our other shows. In fact, we are releasing content 6 days a week. For podcast, Mondays, for the Cutting Edge Japan Business Show, Tuesday for the Presentations Japan series, and every second Tuesday for the Business Tatsujin no Oshie Show, Wednesdays for the Sales Japan series, Thursdays for the Leadership Japan series, and every second Thursday for the Business Pro Podcast Show, Fridays for the Japan Business Mastery Show, and Saturdays for Japan's top business interviews. Now, you get these wherever you get your podcast. Also, every Monday we release the Cutting Edge Japan Business Show. Every second Thursday we release the Business Pro Television Show, and every Friday the Japan Business Mastery Show. Saturdays, every Saturday, we're releasing Japan's top business interviews. These are all on YouTube. We appreciate your support, and please let others know about it so they can benefit too. We want to make a contribution to helping people build their careers and businesses. And so please join with us in that endeavor. In episode number 204, we are talking about dealing with taxing people. So yoroshiku onegai itashimasu. Please join me for the next episode of the Cutting Edge Japan Business Show. We are here to help you. We've only got one direction in mind for you and your business, and that is up.